Okay, great. I'm going to admit everyone.
Cool. I'll start. Hello, everyone. Kim, I can start now, right?
Yeah, go ahead and start.
Okay, so hello, everyone. First of all, this is not Sarah trying to scare you for Halloween. I am actually Rahul. So I'm subbing in for Sarah because she is busy today. So, but good news, she will be back. So you will only have to bear with me for this session. Okay, so let's get right into it. So as usual, we start with announcements. And we'll do a Canvas attendance quiz, and the password is you can see in the bottom. So, and then there will be pre-lab student feedback where you will rate how do you understand the lab's content, vectors and complex numbers before the lab. And then we'll look at some popular questions from last week. We'll go over this week's lab content, and then you can do a feedback again after this lab, whether there was an improvement in your understanding of vectors and complex numbers. Okay, so good news. Now we have homework review sessions, Friday, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. You can go and ask questions if you are confused about homework, if you want to discuss further. And if you can't attend it, the recordings will be made available and the links will be posted on Discord. Okay, so this is your Canvas quiz. Please log into Canvas, use this passcode and do the quiz. And so the quiz is like decimal number 2 is represented in binary as, and if you don't know, it's like this is not for grading, so I'm just going to tell you the answer. It's 10. So just click on that and complete your quiz. Okay, so I hope everyone is doing that. And if you are done with that, then please rate your understanding of vectors and complex numbers, which was the topic of this lecture and this lab. From 1 to 5. Kim, can you please launch the poll?
Yep.
Thank you. Actually, I should learn how to do all this on my own.
No worries. All right, about 3/4 of everyone has voted so far, so we'll just give it a couple more seconds.
Sure, yeah, I'm just waiting and
we'll give it about 5 more seconds and then I'll close the poll.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so it's a good spread. I'm happy. I hope the numbers improve after the lecture. We'll see. Okay, so this is mostly a team of high schoolers, I take it. So there are no university students. So that's good to know. So, okay, so last week, there were a lot of questions on Piazza about this arctan function, or which is also known as tan inverse, right? Or sometimes people just call it atan. So what is the mystery, right? A lot of people were confused about it. Sometimes you plug your answers, sometimes you plug in your calculator and it doesn't give you the right answer. So let's just quickly review what arctan is. So basically, if you have a unit circle here, right? And let's say you have a point, x comma y. And this is unit circle, so this is 1. So what we were told, or we learned, is that x is cos theta, y is sine theta. And then we learned a new trigonometric function, which was tan theta, which was the ratio of these two guys. Yeah, it's y over x. I was just being confused. Okay, so tan theta is y over x. And then What if we want to know the angle? If we want to know the angle, we write it as tan inverse y over x. And it turns out, like, if you always do it in the computer blindly without thinking about the unit circle, it wouldn't give you the right answer. So let's see why that is, right? So this was just a quick review of what is tan theta, what is tan inverse. So okay, so the problem I already say here is that arctan or tan inverse is not a one-to-one map. Now, what do I mean by that, right? So what I mean by that is that, let's say you take a point here, right? Call it x0, y0. And let's say it makes some angle theta anti-clockwise here, right? Now, the point is, if you take this point here, which is minus x0, minus y0, you will see that the angle has changed now. Now it's pi plus theta. But what is tan theta here? So tan theta is going to be the ratio, right? So it's y over x. So this will be minus y0 over minus x0. So the minuses will cancel and this ratio remains the same. And if you try to do theta equals tan inverse of y over x, this will just give you theta equals tan inverse of y0 over x0. So it's the same as the value you've got for this. So you're not getting pi plus theta. So pi plus theta and theta, they are both being represented by the same function. So that's a problem, right? So that's why calculators never give you the right answer. So they just tell you the theta. They don't tell you which quadrant it lies in. So the important part to avoid all these issues, by the way, you can also, if you have notebooks, you can quickly see that this is also true for a point here. So if you have a point here and a point here, you can quickly see that the angles, the tan theta would be same for these two. You can either think about it now or do it at home. So you can see that this function arctan cannot distinguish between theta and pi plus theta. So how do we deal with that, right? Okay, so I have some chats. I'll just quickly see what people are saying. Okay, not right now. Good. Okay, I'll have time for questions separately. Okay, anyway, so right. So it's not a one-to-one map. So the way we deal with it, so first of all, you should know what calculator gives you. So the calculator depends on your calculator. Sometimes it will give you results from 0 to pi. Or sometimes it will give you result, and I think most calculators do that. They will give you results from minus pi over 2 to plus pi over 2. That means that you only get the angles which are either in this quadrant or in this quadrant. So if you have a point here, then the calculator is not going to give you the right answer. It will just tell you what the theta is. So to get the right answer, what you need to do is to plot that point. If you know x and y, or if you know sine theta and cos theta, and I'll repeat again that x is cos theta, y is sine theta. So if you know these two guys, then please don't put it in the calculator and expect the correct answer. Take a unit circle and try to plot that point, where that point is. And if you know that, so calculator will always give you the answer in first quadrant. But if your point is, let's say, in this quadrant, so for this, you know that if x and y are both negative, then your point will be in this quadrant. So you have to add pi to your theta. So your answer, oh, sorry, the pen is acting up. But yeah, so basically, so if you get a value of theta, but then you realize that x and y both are negative, which means my point is in third quadrant, then what you report is pi plus theta. You don't report theta. This is the correct value. And similarly, based on the signs of x and y, if the point lies in second quadrant, you report the equivalent angle in second quadrant. If the point lies in fourth quadrant, you report the angle in the fourth quadrant. So calculator just gives you theta, whether you need to do pi plus theta, pi minus theta, or theta plus pi, theta minus pi. That depends on which quadrant the point lies in. So So let's do a quick exercise to see if you understand that. By the way, the moral of the story is that if you just use the calculator only, it's not very good, because soon you guys are going to learn quantum computation and build superpower computers. And then, you might have heard of something called machine learning. It's already replacing so many jobs, right, with automation. So if we just depend on machines, then we'll be soon kicked out. So that's why, you need to think as a human being and basically plot this on a unit circle and then get the answer. So by the way, a machine can do this as well, but I'm just telling you that, if you just have a calculator, just plot it and see. Okay, so let's do this quick exercise. I hope all of you have your notebooks out. So I'm giving you these points, and you don't need a calculator because I'm already telling you that sine of pi by 4 is 1 over root 2. Cosine of pi by 4 is 1 over root 2. So tan of pi by 4 will be cosine pi by 4 by sine pi by 4. So this will be 1 over root 2 over 1 over root 2. So this will be 1. So I've already told you this. Like if you put it in your calculator, I've told you that pi by 4 is tan inverse 1. So with this information, can you tell me what your calculator will tell you? And I will also tell you that calculator always gives you angle minus pi by 2 to plus pi by 2. And can you tell me the correct angle? So correct angle is basically you have to add or subtract pi to get the correct angle. So let's do that. I'll give you some time, and I will do it with you. If you have notebooks out, you can do it with me. Access code for the people who are late is always like in the right bottom. Anyways, so by the way, somebody said that I did cos over sine. If I did that, that's not correct. You always do sine over cos, not cos over sine. Oh, okay, sorry. So it's here. Yeah, so it's sine over cos. Okay. In this case, it didn't matter because they were the same. Okay, I corrected it. So please note that I made a mistake here. Somebody caught it. Good. Okay, so that means you're not sleeping. Very nice. So 1, 1. So 1, 1. If you calculate it in a calculator, I already told you, it will tell you pi over 4. Is this number correct? You can shout at your home whether yes or no. I can't listen it, but so pi over 4 in this case is correct because point 1, 1, if you have this unit circle, is going to lie here. So this angle, you know that it's pi over 4. Okay, now what about 1, minus 1? So if you feed this 1, minus 1, x is positive, y is negative. So this point is somewhere here, right? So calculator will give you minus pi over 4 because calculator can only tells you angle between minus pi over 2 to plus pi over 2. So in this case also calculator is correct because if you take this, then angle is measured clockwise from this axis, and clockwise it's moving pi over 4, so it's minus pi over 4. Okay, now let's look at minus 1 over 1, minus 1, 1. So minus 1, 1 is negative x, positive y. So this point will be somewhere here. Now, if you put this value in calculator, as I said, the ratio of 1 and minus 1 is the same here as minus 1 and 1. So calculator will again give you minus pi over 4. But that's not correct, right? Because we know that the angle lies here. The angle is here now. This is the angle for minus 1, 1. So what will be this angle? Just do it at home. So it will be minus pi over 4 plus pi, which will be 3 pi over 4. So this is minus pi over 4 plus pi. So you have to add pi to get to this angle. And you can, as I said, if you draw the graph neatly, you can see it. This is a bit too small. So let me just draw it again. So this was minus 1, 1, which calculator tells you correctly. This is minus, sorry, this was 1, minus 1. So 1, minus 1, which calculator tells you correctly, and then minus 1, 1, which calculator doesn't tell you correctly. But you know that if this is pi over 4, then I already told you that just pi opposite is its partner value. So minus pi over 4 plus pi. So 3 pi over 4. Okay. Now about the last one, -1 and -1. So this point, both coordinates are negative. This point will be here, right? But if you put it in calculator, -1 and -1, if you take the ratio here, it will be positive. So the calculator will just, as I said, calculator only tells you value minus pi over 2 to pi over 2. So calculator will tell you pi over 4. But if you know these guys, then you know that the value is not correct, right? The value has to be greater than pi because it's lying outside the half circle. So then the value will be again pi over 4 plus pi, which will be 5 pi over 4. So I hope now you understand how to get correct value from from x and y, and just not only rely on calculator. Cool. So, okay, so before we move forward, I think there was another point which I missed. Yeah. So taming infinity. So a lot of people had this question on Piazza that what if my point is x equals 0 and y equals 1? So then if you try to do tan inverse y over x, now you know that y over x in this case is basically infinity, right? Actually, I shouldn't write this limit. It's just equal to infinity. So then what happens then? So again, what you do is you go back to your unit circle, you plot that point. So if y is 1, x is 0, the point is here, right? 1 unit in y, 0 units in x. So if the point is here, then the angle it makes is 90 degree. So tan inverse of any x equals 0 point, well, not any, but at least y equals 1, x equals 0 is going to be pi over 2. Similarly, let's say somebody told you x equals 0, but y is now -1. So if y is -1, the point is here. So then the angle would be, it's going in clockwise direction. So tan inverse, in this case, it's minus infinity because it's -1 over 0. So this is pi over 2. Now, a lot of people take objection to writing equals whenever you have infinity in any picture. If you are a physics student, I would tell you not to worry about them. Maths people, let them worry. So in physics, you know, sometimes like we can tame infinity a lot of times based on the context. So, but this is how you deal with it. Just use unit circle. Very good. So any questions on arctan? So I will just look at the chat for a few minutes. Well, not few minutes, probably 1 minute. And if you have questions, we'll try to look at them. Division is by 0 is undefined or infinity for this class. So as I said, it depends on context. It depends on context. In this case, 1 over 0, tan inverse 1 over 0, you can take it as pi over 2. It's fine. Okay, okay. A lot of people gave correct answers to previous questions. That's good to know. Wouldn't it be minus pi over 2? Did I write pi over 2? If I did, I'm sorry. And then let's quickly go back. Yeah, it's minus pi over 2. Wow, you guys are sharp. Okay, good. I said minus pi over 2, but I wrote pi over 2. So it's minus pi over 2. Good. Okay, I think could 1 minus 1 be 7 pi over 4? Somebody asks. Yes. So minus pi over, so these functions are periodic. You can add 2 pi to any of these. So the question is minus pi over 4 equal to 7 pi over 4? In terms of angles. So I should say that in terms of angles, not like this quantity is obviously not equal, right? So pi by 4, so I should write it correctly as this, minus pi by 4 radian, is it equal to 7 pi by 4 radian? And it is because sine and cosine and all the functions are 2 pi periodic. And that means that minus pi by 4 radians equals minus pi by 4 plus 2 pi radians. And if you do that, you will see that you get 7 pi over 4. So that's also correct. Okay. But as I said, your calculator works between minus pi over 2 to plus pi over 2. Good. Okay. Minus 1, 1, 3 pi over 4. So do it yourself now. So I'll, thanks everyone for your questions. Would you be able to always add pi to get an angle with the same value? So for tan, yes, as I showed you, if you add pi, you will get the angle. But as I said, whether you have to add pi or not, that is determined by your unit circle. So plot your point and then see whether you need to do it or not. If you don't need to do it, don't do it. If you need to do it, then you add pi. Arctan and tan are 1 pi periodic. Okay, cool. So I think people got the gist of it. So we will go ahead. I think inverse tan has a range. So let me just tell you something. You might have heard of definitions of functions. I'm told that you guys are advanced high school students. So for functions, you need clear definitions of domain and range. And all the inverse trigonometric functions, I mean, we call them functions, but they are strictly not functions. So somebody is saying what to search on YouTube. So on Piazza, there are a great set of videos I posted. It's called Fantastic Math Review. It's by 3 Blue 1 Brown YouTube channel. Just go on Piazza, look at the pin post, and he goes into details of all the trigonometry, complex numbers, and all that. So that's like really, really cool. Like I very highly recommend it. Okay, so, oh wow, it's already half of the lab and I haven't even started content. Okay, so let's go to our content. So we are going to discuss vectors and we are going to discuss complex numbers. So after this class, you should be able to add vectors, and you should be able to decompose vectors, and you should be able to know what is modulus and conjugate of complex numbers, and you should be able to multiply them. Okay. So first of all, why do we worry, right? Like, since you guys are busy and you are sitting down on election night with me, then why do you care about vectors and complex numbers? So it turns out if you are doing quantum computation, then again, if you don't understand this, doesn't matter, but I'm just telling you that the information in quantum computation is encoded as vectors which have complex coefficients. So just to relate to your lecture, you might have seen something like this, right? Alpha 0 plus beta 1. So these guys are vectors. And these guys, alpha and beta, are complex numbers. So you can see straight away that your qubits are vectors with complex numbers. So you need to probably understand them, right? So, okay, so I'm not wasting your time, hopefully. Okay, so scalars and vectors. So I'll quickly like to see in the chat, please, people who have heard about it, don't respond yes. But people who have never heard about vectors, could you please respond in chat and say no, if it's okay? I mean, I definitely never heard about anything like that unless I was quite advanced. So almost a university. So please just, yeah, I mean, yes or no. Well, I'm getting these wedge signs. Is it yes or no? Okay, I don't know. I will guess like me, although I was in school like some 10 years back. So I don't know how schools have changed. But anyways, so let's, okay. So scalars and vectors. So, right. So scalars are so when you are talking to someone, or let's say you are a physicist, mathematician, engineer, or whatever, you have to talk about quantities, right? You have to talk about, or let's say you want to brag, right? You want to go to your friend's place and you want to say that, oh, you see, like my chocolate is bigger, or, you know, like my house is bigger. So you want to compare quantities. You want to talk about quantities. So if you can do it with one number, then these quantities are called scalar. So here is an example. So if you have a car, you know, like you got a new car, and then if you want to talk about how fast your car is, you just want to tell them one number, speed, like 60 miles an hour, or here 50 miles an hour, and that's enough. You know, you can say that, oh, my car can go this fast. Somebody else can say something else. But it turns out sometimes only one number is not enough. For example, look at these cars. This car is going in this direction. This car is coming in this direction. Both of them can be going at the same speed, right? Like they can both have their speedometers pointing at 50 miles an hour. But do they represent the same thing, same physical situation? No, right? So because one is going this way, one is coming that way. So any quantity where you need more than one number to express it. So this, like, let me just write one number. And here you need more than one number. If you need more than one number to express a quantity, then we call those quantities vectors. And obviously, if you need more than one quantity, then you know that there is more information, right? Because here, for example, you tell how fast it is going, and you say what direction it is going. So velocity is speed plus direction. If you have never heard of this term velocity. So, okay, so now let's look at how do we represent them. So to represent them in the most simplest way is so scalar. Scalar quantities are just, as I said, like single number. But if you want to express vector, I just told you, you need more than one number. And we have a tiny arrow on their top to just say that they have a direction. In modern textbooks, by the way, they are represented as boldface as well. So boldface V is actually a vector. Now, you know that vectors are sometimes like a code. So you need a key to unlock that code. And that key is always something known as basis. So again, I don't want to get into like too much terminology, but what I'm trying to tell you that these numbers, what do these numbers tell, is always encoded in something known as a basis. So in most cases, if it's not specified, these numbers will just represent X and Y coordinates. And I hope you guys know coordinates because we have been covering them for a long time. So, okay. So one way to represent vectors, just make a list, 3, 2, whatever, right? Okay, so here is an exercise. So we have a grid now, coordinate grid, and you guys have your notebooks. You can probably quickly draw a grid or just do it as I do here. So how do you locate this vector 2, 1 on a Cartesian coordinate system? So I haven't shown you, but I guess, you know, it's sort of obvious that like the basis, I haven't told you again, but it's always assumed to be X and Y. So if you go 2 units in X, okay, I came here, and then 1 unit in Y. So I went here. So this is my point. So I started from here and I finished here, and vectors are denoted like an arrow, where you have a starting point, the tail of the arrow, and ending point, which is head of the arrow. So this is called a vector. So this will be our vector V. Another nice thing about vectors is that you can draw this anywhere. As long as you are moving 2 units here, 1 unit here, it's the same vector. You can draw it. Sorry, I missed this one. Right, 2 units here, 1 unit here. So here. So yeah, so you can draw it anywhere, but usually people draw it around origin just for ease. But all of these are vector V. So I hope if I tell you some random vector like 3, 5 now, you can draw it anywhere in coordinate plane. So that's cool. So now we know how to represent them. So we can represent them like numbers. We can represent them like arrows. Okay. So now the question is, now you know that, okay, I have an arrow. But as I said, you like if you want to talk to people, you know, or if you want to, let's say brag about something, then basically you need to say how big it is, right? Like, and so vectors, I told you that it gives you more than one piece of information, but one important piece is the magnitude. How big is your arrow? So that is called magnitude of a vector, and it's represented as this symbol. So anything between this thing, these vertical bars, is known as a magnitude. People sometimes call it norm, sometimes call it modulus. We'll see it. So magnitude, mod, modulus, norm, they're all kind of like same things. So, okay, so what is the length of this arrow? So you might have heard of some dude in 800 BC Greece, right? His name was Pythagoras. And I guess he's your old friend. You probably met him in your elementary school or something, right? So you can probably tell what the length of this is. If I tell you this is 1, this is 2. You guys have notebooks. You guys can all probably get it. So it's 2 squared plus 1 squared square root 5. So this is our magnitude. So that's how big your vector is. So that's one property. Now I promised you that vector tell you more than one property, right? So what else do we know about this vector? Well, we know that it's pointing here. So how do we get the direction? Again, we just did a review, in fact, quite a lengthy review on how to mention directions, right? So to mention directions, you know that you can use tan theta. So what is that? If this is theta from x-axis, so what is tan theta? Tan theta is going to be vertical coordinate over horizontal coordinate. So in this case, 1/2. So theta will be tan inverse 1/2. And be careful, just don't plug it into your calculator, because if your vector was pointing, you know, something like this, then you will get the wrong answer. So, but here I'm just taking a simple example, so don't worry about that. So now I told you how to get magnitude and direction both. So as I said, it gives you more information than mere magnitude. Okay, so now is the time to do a simple exercise. So I give you two vectors, v1 and v2. And I want to tell you how to add vectors. Now, if you learn advanced physics, there are various ways of doing it, but it's very simple in computer science and mathematics. You just take top part with top part, bottom part with bottom part. Or in other words, you just take one set of numbers and then another set of numbers and then just simply add them. So I think there is a poll, Kim, which you can launch now. It just asks about vector addition. Is Kim here? Well, I guess you can. Yeah, so there is a poll about vector addition. I think that's the poll number 1, which you can launch. It's quite trivial, but I mean, let's do it just to see if people are awake. Okay. Oh, sorry, you launched the rating poll. It's okay, sorry. I think it was some other poll, but don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I guess people can add, right? So let's add 2 plus 3, 1 plus 3. So if you add them, what do you get? 5 and 4. So that's our answer. That was the answer. It's okay. Cool. So now you know how to add vectors. Again, if you watch some videos or watch some advanced lectures, they might tell you some other things. But for our purposes in this course, you just add top, you just add bottom, and you are done. By the way, I'm referring to them as top and bottom. What are these top and bottom, right? Like I just told you, vectors are more than one numbers. But what do these numbers represent? So that's what we will see now. It's called vector decomposition. Like if somebody gave me this vector v, which is 3, 2. So I know it's 3, 2 because it's 3 units in x and 2 units in y. Now, vector decomposition means that you break your vector into your bases. So you have a vector. If you break it down into its like basis components, then you call it vector decomposition. So let's do that. So in our case, we already saw that the components will be along x and y. So what is the component along x? So along x, we have 3 units. And it's also, by the way, denoted sometimes as vx times, we call this guy a unit vector, and we read it as x cap or x hat, or different cultures read it differently. The way I learned it, I used to call it x cap. And as I said, boldface denotes a vector. So this is a vector. And the first component is unit vector along x. So what is unit vector along x? Unit vector along x is just a vector with length 1. That's why it's called unit. And so here we have written it's vx times x. So if this is my x cap, this is my vx times x cap. So that means that I have scaled my unit vector by length 3. So this is my component along x-axis. So I think I'm getting a lot of chats, but I'll check them after, I'm done with this part. So please have patience. And then along y-axis, so as I said, you can break this number, which I was again saying top and bottom. You can break it into top part and bottom part. You can write it like this. And the top part, as I said, if you know your basis is x and y, then top part is x, bottom part is y. So we already dealt with x. For y, again, we have a unit vector. This is y cap and vy times y cap. So here, for example, vx is 3 and vy is 2. By the way, these guys are not vectors. You see, these are not bold. So these are just constant numbers. So constant number just stretches this vector. So 2 times y cap just means that you stretch this guy like this. For example, here we stretch this guy. And I just told you that a vector doesn't matter where it lives, as long as its head and tail are the same. It's the same vector. So this is 3x cap or vx x cap. And this is same as the blue arrow here. Similarly, here this is 2y cap, or which is vy times y cap. This is the same as the orange arrow here. So vy times y cap. And if you add these two guys, you get your total vector v, which is vx times x cap plus vy times y cap. So this is just to tell you that, I give you any vector. Since you are advanced students, I might tell you that you can have a vector in 3 dimension. You can have vector in, let me just throw this word, don't worry about it. You can have a vector in infinite dimensions. So all the quantum state vectors are actually vectors in infinite dimension. This is just to keep you interested. You don't need to worry about it. But yeah, so you have vectors and you can always decompose them into its basis vectors. So if you have 3 dimensions, you can do x, y, and z. If you have 4 dimensions, you can do x, y, z, and time. So yeah, and it's nothing non-trivial. You just read it off. Okay, cool. So questions on content so far. So I look up all the previous questions, and if you have questions about vectors, please, what is Vx and Vy? So Vx and Vy are just some scalar numbers. So it's just some scalar numbers by which you multiply your basis vectors, and the total sum gives you the vector. Is there any constraint that all vectors represented by basis? Oh, sorry, the question went down. X and Y ket just represent X and Y. They are vectors. X and Y kets are vectors in infinite dimensional space. Again, don't go too much into detail, but that's fine. Is there a difference between bracket notation and this notation? No, they are the same. Okay, let me see more questions. Tyler vectors, what is Tyler vector? Okay, I think it's a joke. Okay, fair enough. Does this imply decomposed vector can be elevated in dimension by some basis vector in that dimension with a coefficient or dimensional magnitude of 0? If you have 0 times, yeah. So I mean, let's say your vector is just 3, 0. So what are components? So here Vx is just 3, if this is your V, and Vy is just 0. So that is possible. You can have two, like this is a one-dimensional vector, but if you are representing it in 2 dimensions, you will just say that all my other components are 0. So, or you can also write this V as 3 times x cap. So that's cool. Okay, think we did pretty well here. We are almost slightly past halfway. So let's go to complex numbers now. I have some more charts. I'll quickly check if there were some questions because we are doing pretty well on time. How do I find direction? Okay, direction. Okay. X cap coefficient or a variable. X cap is a vector actually. So I'll quickly re-emphasize these points. I hope you guys don't have anything after this. So X cap and Y caps are vectors. They are unit vectors. X cap is a vector in X direction here, and Y cap is a vector in Y direction. And you can represent any arrow by stretching this arrow, stretching that arrow, and adding these 2 arrows. So here you, for example, this is like, let's say 4, X cap, and 1, 2, 3, Y cap. So, you can add these X cap and Y cap to create any vector. So that's why these are called basis vector. And they are usually unit vectors. They are not necessarily unit vectors, but usually people choose them to be unit vectors. Okay, and about direction. So people asked about direction. So direction here, for example, your direction theta, it's all the same. What you learned in polar coordinates, what you learned in trigonometry, it's all the same. It's the same thing. You're just seeing it again and again. So theta, okay, so let me just again write 2 lines. So tan theta, what is tan theta in this right angle triangle? So if you follow all the trigonometry, it's just going to be Vy over Vx, the component in Y, component in X, which in this case is 2 over 3. Now what is theta? Theta will be just tan inverse Vy over Vx. That's the general formula. And in this case, it will be tan inverse 2 over 3. That's how you find the direction of vector. And magnitude of vector, I didn't ask, but if I asked you magnitude of vector, that will be 3 squared plus 2 squared, Pythagoras theorem, right? So it's square root 13. Okay, so I hope things are clear. Just be careful with tan inverse, that's all I'm saying. Okay, so we are 40 minutes past, and I hope we finish in time. I might have to extend, but anyways. So let's talk about complex numbers, right? I think Fran did a fantastic introduction in the lecture. So again, let's talk about how people invented numbers, right? Because people wanted to compare things. You are an early man. You have to sell. You have some sheep, but you want, let's say, some clothes. So you go to some guy, say that, oh, I have 10 sheep. Then how much clothes can I get? And the other person will tell you some number. So real line is good for one-dimensional things. You can compare things in 1 dimension. But what if you wanted to do something in 2 dimension? Let's say you want to rotate something. Can you do it in real line? So, right, there is no concept of rotation, because if you live in 1 dimension, I hope you don't, but let's say if I come to your room, and make it like a really thin like lane. So then you can't really rotate, right? Like you have to just go forward and backwards. You can only go forward, backward. There is no concept of rotation, right? So some smart people who wanted to deal with rotation, they invented a new number system. And that number system is called a complex number system. It's a weird name, they shouldn't have called it complex to scare people off. But I guess, I don't know, maybe they wanted to keep it an elite club or something. But you are going to be in that elite club, so good. Now you understand complex numbers, or hopefully after this lab you will. So complex numbers are represented in 2D. And again, I'm just telling you, you keep seeing the same things again and again. So it's same like X and Y coordinates. So a complex number is also a set of two numbers. So if you have a complex number Z, that's A plus IB, you represent it like this. We'll get to it, but I'm just telling you that the motivation for complex number was to do operations in 2D, to go beyond this, simple forward and backward from real line. Okay, so again, as I said, a complex number has two parts, a real part, which is sometimes also written as real part of Z, and then an imaginary part with which you associate a I, and that is called imaginary part of Z, or denoted as this. By the way, the basic definition for imaginary numbers, the defining property is that I squared is -1. If you know that, you can derive most of the properties very easily, or like you can derive everything else. Although, as I said, when we learn things, it's good to memorize and then later understand everything. So there is no shame in memorizing. I mean, that's how everyone starts. That's how you learn how to bicycle, And once you know it, then you know all the details. Okay, cool. So I told you one representation where you just write these two numbers, like 2 plus 3i, -7 plus 4i, these are all complex numbers. Now, they can also be represented as vectors in 2D plane. So again, but I told you that vectors are two numbers, right? Remember, vectors are two numbers. So here you just write your complex number as a vector, but you take A and B. Now your basis is real and imaginary. It's same as X and Y, I would just say, just for the ease. So X-axis, we call it real axis now. Y-axis, we call it imaginary axis now. So then it's simple, right? So you just learn how to do this thing. You go A units in X, B units in Y, and then you have your number A plus IB. So it's the same thing coming over and over, like, polar coordinates, trigonometry, vectors, complex numbers, same basics. So this is an exercise for you. Like, if you have it on screen, just think in your mind, where will 2 plus 3i be? And I'll do it with you. So this is our vector. And as I said, just think of it as X and Y. So you go 2 units in X and 3 units in Y. And then you get your number, 2 plus 3i. That's all. It's easy, right? Cool. Now, the important part about some definitions now. So again, don't be scared by names. They're all very easy. So first thing is the modulus. So I already told you that modulus, magnitude, length, all these Greek terms are just like made to scare you. Norm, these are all simple things. So if you have real axis here, imaginary axis here, and let's say you had a complex number here, A plus IB, which we just did, but I'll do again. A units in X, B units in Y. Then what is this length, And you don't need me to tell you, like in elementary school, your friend Pythagoras already told you probably. So, so this is what your friend tells, right? Your 800, I think 2,800-year-old friend. So A squared plus B squared. So that's simply modulus. There is no secret to it. That's modulus of a complex number. Okay, conjugate is something new, which is different from other things. And to do a conjugate, what you do, I'll just write it down, just flip imaginary part of Z. And flip what? Flip sign, actually. Flip sign of imaginary part of Z. So if you have a number A plus IB, your number will become A minus IB. That's the conjugate. So for example, 7 plus 3i, what will be conjugate? In your notebooks, please write down. It will be 7 All of you shout at home, minus 3i. Yeah, okay. So similarly, minus 2, minus 2i. What is the complex conjugate? So if this is, let's call it like some number y. So y bar, that's how it's represented by a bar on top. That is 2 minus 2. Everyone shouts, plus 2i. So it's simple, just flip the sign. Just flip the sign of imaginary part. So no big deal, right? Pythagoras theorem, flipping the sign, you guys are expert. Okay, cool. So let's do an exercise again. This is just to, for on the slide, just to keep you updated. So now we have a number 2 plus 3i. Can you please, in your notebooks, do the modulus and conjugate? I will do it with you. So 2 plus 3i, where is the number? Since we have a plane here, might as well plot it. So that is also an exercise. So 2 units in, so as I said, you look at this as this. And I told you look at this as x and y. So, okay, so 2 is x, the real part without I, that's 2. And the part which has I is imaginary part, so 3. So the vector, or sorry, not the vector, the complex number z equals 2 plus 3i is here. So magnitude, I hope you guys all got it. It's 2 squared plus 3 squared, which is 4 plus 9, which is 13. And conjugate, just flip the sign here. So plus becomes minus, it's 2 minus 3i. I hope all of you got it. Okay, and now how do we add it? So that's one of the operations, right? So you just want to become familiar, so you want to add them. So the way to add it is same as the way you would add vectors. So if you remember how we were adding vectors, if we had like 3, 1, 2, 5, then we just add the top 5 and 6. So that is basically, just to tell you, it's 3 plus 2 and 1 plus 5. So it's the same deal here. So you add the real parts and then add the imaginary parts. So this will be 2 plus 3 and then plus 3 minus 2 I. So I'm just adding, or you can also write it 3 plus minus 2. So you just add the real parts together, add the imaginary parts together. So add real, add imaginary. And what do you get? You get 5. 3 plus minus 2 is plus I, right? Simple enough. Do you want an example? I guess you can do it, but let me just give you a quick example. Minus 1 minus I, and then let's say 1 plus 3i. So this is Z1, this is Z2. Please do Z1 plus Z2 for me, everyone, in your notebooks. Minus 1 plus 1, everyone says at their homes, 0. Cool. And then minus 3 and plus minus I, and then plus 3i. So plus 3 and minus 1. So plus 3 and minus 1 I. So this is 2i. So this number has no real part. This number has no real part. This is a purely imaginary number. But that's fine. I mean, that can happen, right? You can also have purely real. So, okay. Now, how do we multiply complex numbers? Again, they have given a formula here. On most textbooks, you will see this formula. I will be honest, I never remembered this. The way I would multiply is just the way I multiply any, expression. So I don't remember this. If you want, you can remember that. The way I would do is I would write 2 plus 3i, and then I would write 3 minus 2i, and then I would just multiply like I normally multiply things, right? So again, as I said, culturally, I might be slightly different from what you have learned here, but the way I would multiply is I would take 2, and then basically I would do it like this: 2 times 3 minus 2i plus 3i times 3 minus 2i. That's how I would do. And then I would write it down. 2 times 3 is 6, then 2 times 2 is 4, and then plus 3 times 3 is 9. And now it's an interesting term. We have I squared here. So 3 times minus 2 is minus 6, and then I times I is I squared. But you know that I squared is minus 1, right? That's the basic definition. So then this becomes 6 minus 4 and plus 9i, you can add them because they both have I in them, so you can add them. So minus 4 plus 9 is plus 5i. And then this guy is minus 6i squared. So this becomes plus 6 because I squared is minus 1. So then the final answer becomes 12 plus 5i. So that's how I do it. I never remember this AC, BD, all these things. I just use I squared minus 1, but it's useful to remember, maybe depends on how you learn multiplication. So I hope it's fine with all of you. We can do a problem if we have extra time later. Okay, so now the polar form of complex number, which raised a lot of questions. So again, if you want to go into this topic deeply, I recommend the video on Piazza by, it's called Fantastic Math Review. It's pinned on Piazza top. There is a playlist, find the complex number lectures, watch them. For our purposes, we need very simple things. And I'm just telling you that we are seeing the same things again and again. So recall what was polar coordinates. Polar coordinates, we learned that X is r cos theta, Y is r sin theta. And then we learned that theta is tan inverse Y over X. If you remember these things, I think you will see that it's just a repetition of these facts. So let's see. So polar representation of complex numbers. So how does this come about, right? So you have a real axis, you have an imaginary axis, and let's say you have a number here, x plus iy, and we all have seen repeatedly, what does this mean? This means that it's a vector like x and y, and in basis x and y, or in basis real and imaginary, it means x units in horizontal, y units in vertical. So this is x comma y. Okay. And then the way it is written in polar form is that you want the magnitude first. So you want the modulus. And I just told you it's a fancy term for length. And as your friend Pythagoras would tell you, that this length is just x squared plus y squared. So that is modulus of z. And then the other part they are using. So what is this, by the way? So if you know the polar form and you followed previous labs, this is just writing r cos theta plus I r sin theta. Well, in this case, they are calling theta phi, but okay, so to be consistent, let me just change everything to phi. So it doesn't matter, it's just an angle. By the way, if you remember those lectures, you also remember that r was square root x squared plus y squared, and theta was tan inverse y over x. So it's the same thing, it's the same thing. You are seeing it again and again. So it's nothing new, just to get you familiar. So I'm just saying the polar forms make an appearance in complex numbers, but you already know them. So don't be intimidated. So x plus iy. So this is, you just take r common, and then cos phi plus I times sin phi. Right, so these are all phi's. These are all phi's. Right. So, and then r is just modulus of z, because we have seen that this is equal to x squared plus y squared. This is just the length. So, okay, so the part which most people don't get, or most people are annoyed by the first time, is just this part, that why we call this guy e to the I phi. Now I have an answer, but it will take time to tell you. So I would just recommend you go and watch Grant Sanderson of 3 Blue 1 Brown on YouTube. I have posted the link on Piazza, and you will see why e to the I phi is this. But if you just believe me that e to the I phi is cos phi plus I sin phi, then you know that this will be just r times e to the I phi. So here are the expressions. An angle, as I said, is just tan inverse y over x. So I'll just delete my scribbles so that you can see them clearly. Right? So everyone can write a polar form now. What do you need? You shout at home, 2 things. 1, modulus. 2, angle. Once you know that, you can do it. Okay. So this is an exercise now again. So please, for me, represent this number as r e to the I phi. So you do it while I look at the chats. Okay. Yep, all good questions. I'm seeing them. I think students are answering students themselves, so that's also cool. Although I would hope that you focus here, but cool. Okay, so somebody's asking about myself. Not in the lecture, but okay. Anyway, so cool. So r times e to the I phi. So I hope all of you did that. I already told you that R is just the length of this vector. So by the way, in chat, there was a question that the complex number is a to the a plus ib, right? And when we define the modulus, we had square root of a squared plus b squared. Where did I go? There is no I in here, right? So this is just to tell you that I is just a notation where we have an imaginary axis and a real axis. And for magnitude, we are just looking at the length of this complex number. So I told you that complex numbers are represented on a 2D plane. So if this is a plus ib, that means it's a units in a axis, or the real axis, b units in imaginary axis. Hence, what is the length? And for this length, you need no I, because I already told you it's b units here, a units here. So it's a plus b squared. There is no I involved here. Just remember this definition. Okay. So all of you guys probably got it. It's 4 plus 9, which is 13. And this is, just to be clear, 2 squared plus 3 squared equals this, equals this. And what is phi? Phi is tan inverse. And again, would you just use a calculator, my friends? No, right? Like I just told you that, like, for example, if this number was, let's say, -2 plus 3i, maybe do it as a homework. If z is -2 plus 3i, what should be the r e to the I phi? So do it as homework. But I'm just saying that here it's just tan inverse 2 over 3 and sorry, 3 over 2, y and then over x. So the r e to the I phi will become square root 13 e to the I, and then phi is tan inverse 3 over 2. And this number you can get from your calculator or something. But I'm just telling you, if you have -2 plus 3i, then calculator is not going to give you right answer. So you need to check it. Okay, cool. Homework for you. I think these things just repeat what I said, so I'm not going to spend time on them. Okay, questions on complex numbers, please accept the Euler's formula. For that, please spare me. And proof, some people already in the chat said can be done using Taylor series. Yes, you guys are advanced high school, so I guess some of you know it, but no problem if you don't know it. I never knew it before high school, so you guys are smarter than me. Cool. Okay, where are the chats? I can't see chats. Okay, questions on complex numbers. Clarify addition of vectors with varying dimension. Mixed answers are going around. You can only add vectors with same number of dimensions. So if only 2 dimensions vector can be added to 2-dimensional vector. 2-dimensional vector, 3-dimensional vector, you can't add. So vector needs 2 values. Is that the reason we use scalar values? Yes. So a vector, as I said, is a set of numbers, and each of those numbers are scalars. So vector is, a set of scalar numbers. How many scalar numbers depends on the dimension. 2D, 2 numbers. 3D, 3 numbers. Vector is in real plane or complex plane. Well, vector is in a plane which is so vector is a different concept than a complex number. I was just telling you that you can think of complex numbers as vectors if it helps you to draw those numbers. They are different things. So please don't confuse them together. Somebody asked about entangled qubits. I'm not qualified enough right now to answer, sorry. Okay. Other questions. Complex number for 2 dimensions, then what about 3 dimensions, sphere or a cube? There are something called quaternions, but again, don't go into them if you don't like, not if you don't want to, just don't go into them. Okay. Okay, cool. Okay, fine. So we are done with all the content we had compulsorily. I might stick around for 5 more minutes for additional contents if people are interested, but we need to do the poll. So let me go to the next slide. Okay, sorry. Yeah, so after this lab, if you understand vectors, like please rate your understanding of vectors and complex number based on these. Thank you. Kim, you can please launch the post poll. Sorry if I, confused you earlier about polls.
Yeah, I have concept quiz 3, which talks about.
Please don't put any concept quiz now. This is just a post lab feedback. I think you got confused. That's why I didn't launch any concept quizzes, but that's fine. Those were all very simple. No worries. Okay, so should I relaunch a polling 1 then? Yeah, polling 1, which is just the content poll. Yeah, thank you. No worries. Okay, still a good spread, but it's good to be confused and do not be too confident of oneself. So that's good. That's good. And I just watched that Piazza video, and I'm pretty sure all of you will rate 5 after that. So that guy's a legendary teacher. 3 blue, 1 brown, Grant Sanderson. So, and he has good Python animation. So yeah, just have some tea, or whatever you drink, milk or whatever in the night. Sit down. It's very like soothing, calm, peaceful. Very nice video. Okay, this is done. Thank you for polling. If you guys want to leave, you can leave, but I'm going to discuss Blocksphere. And I'm going to discuss why I squared is -1, It's kind of like why people came up with that. So that's kind of interesting, at least to me. So, okay, so, right. So I can't see my title of my slide, but I think it's about complex number. So multiplication of complex number. So why I squared -1, right? Why not I squared like infinity, or I squared -3 or something? So let's look at what I does. So let us look at what I does to a number. Sorry for my handwriting. Okay, so let's simply again go back to our complex plane. It's a good habit to always draw complex plane, by the way. It will serve you in a long run. And let's take a number. Let's just simply take 1. So this is our number 1 on real line. So this is, let's call our Z1 I, because we'll be multiplying with that. And Z2 in this case is just 1. So can people tell me what is Z1 times Z2? 1 times I is simply I. And where do you represent I? So let me also write vector representation of these guys. So this guy, real 1, imaginary 0. And just to remind you, the basis is real and imaginary. So real 1, imaginary 0. For I, this will be real 0, imaginary 1. So initially our number was here. And after rotation, if I can change my color, the number has moved here. So this is I. So what has I done? So what I does to a number, the answer is, you guys can all see, rotate the number by 90 degrees. So I just motivated this whole discussion by telling you that people wanted to have numbers in 2D, right, rather than a real line. So now you can see why it is, right? Because you multiply something with I, and it just flips by 90 degrees. And I'll just give you a homework problem maybe, that let's take some other number. Let's take z equals 2 plus 3i, write it down in your notebook or something, multiplied by I, this is Z2, write down Z1, comma Z2, plot that thing for me, please, at your home, at your ease, not now, and then see if this is again true. Does this rotate the number by 90? And I mean, I can just do it here, but I would let you have the fun. Why should I have all the fun, right? So you do it and you will see that this is true. And if I can rotate by 90, any number a plus ib, if you can write any number like this, then you can actually rotate by any angle. So this is how people develop computer games, and this is how we will do quantum computation, by taking a vector and rotating it around. So that's why this is important. So that was just just a fun fact and something for you to play around with. Okay, so now I'm just going to talk about Blocksphere for a couple of minutes, not more than that. So what is a Blocksphere? So Blocksphere is something where you represent quantum states. And to motivate that, let's say you want to tell where your hometown is, right? So you have Earth, and on Earth, let's say if I ask you where your hometown is, how do you tell? So I, for example, come from India. So India is somewhere here, right? So what I will tell you is the longitude and latitude, right? I hope you have learned that in geography. I don't know, it differs from culture to culture, but basically there are these lines which are called longitudes. And then there are these lines which are called latitudes. And any point on Earth can be located on this grid. Like, for example, I located my hometown here, and you guys can do your own maybe. So you need, but the key point is that if you locate anything on Earth's sphere, you need 2 angles. That's the key point. So longitude and latitude. So we use the same concept in quantum computation. And these 2 angles you can see here are called theta and phi. So again, we are not going to discuss this now, This will be topic in second semester, and it will be discussed at huge length. So don't worry if you don't get any of it. This is just to, like, there were a lot of questions on Piazza, and if you are super interested, this is just to motivate you. So if you have two angles, theta and phi, you can locate any point on the sphere, whether here or here or here or here. By the way, notice on a sphere, not inside a sphere. If you want to do it inside a sphere, like here, then you need another number, or r, or a radius. But here we only want radius equals 1. So it's like a unit sphere rather than a unit circle, which we have been talking about. So block sphere is just a unit sphere, and you need these two angles to specify your location. And another homework exercise for you, or just something to think about while you are dreaming, is what values theta can take. So it's not very trivial to see, because usually you would expect anything to go from 0 to 2 pi, right? But here, if you see, again, I won't give you the answer, but just to tell you, if you have a point here, and if you have a point here, if your theta varies from 0 to 2 pi, here you measure it in this direction, and in the other, if it goes beyond this, you can measure it in other direction. And the reason these two are related is because phi in this plane, equator plane, can move from 0 to 2 pi. So you can think about how each point on a sphere can be represented by these two guys. So again, something for you to think about. If you don't get it, fine. Advanced content will be discussed in second semester. All of you will be experts soon. So it's a new thing. Everyone gets uncomfortable with new things, like learning to ride a bike. Don't worry. In quantum computation, we have two poles of this sphere. One pole is 1, 0, other pole is 0, 1. And then you can have all sorts of combination. And what we learned today, using vectors and complex numbers, we can deal with all these things later in the course. So that was the point. I'm just flashing, like that's how you write it. You don't need to understand it at all, like what this means, but I'm just telling you that any quantum state, once you know theta and phi, this is just to show you that there is theta and phi. Once you know theta and phi, you can write down any quantum state on the Bloch sphere. So that's all. Then, well, okay, maybe one more minute. So how do you, so I told you how to multiply numbers like 2 plus 3i and 1 plus 2i, right? You just multiply them like you do normal multiplication. Now, what if you have numbers in polar form? So this is also simple multiplication, right? So if you have these, if you have notebooks, please do that. So you multiply 1 and 2, you get 2. And then you multiply e to the I pi over 4, e to the I pi over 4. And then what you get is basically 2 times. And you know how the powers multiplications work, right? I think this was probably covered in elementary school, that a to the power m, a to the power n is a to the power m plus n. Quick way to see, 2 squared plus 2 cubed, sorry, multiplied by 2 cubed. Sorry, I'm being fast, but just finishing this up. So this is actually 2 to the power 2 plus 3, which is 2 to the power 5, which is 32. And this, if you can see, it's 4 times 8, which is 32. So similarly here, you just add them. So pi by 4 plus pi by 4. And this will be 2 times e to the I pi by 2. By the way, what is this number? Please do it with me at home. If you remember this definition, this is cos I pi over 2, sorry, cos pi over 2 plus I times sine pi over 2. Now cos pi over 2 is 0. So this number is simply, and sine pi over 2 is 1. This number is simply 2i. So you can see how this makes, you know, the whole A, B, C, D thing really easy. So this is why polar forms are super useful. Oh, by the way, another interesting fact I forgot to tell you. So here we are seeing that I rotates the number by 90, right? Another homework exercise for you, write I in polar form. That's for you to do. It's super easy to do, but you know, just do it. Find R, find phi, and write R e to the I phi. And you will see something very interesting here. And if you see that, and then if I ask you to rotate something by pi by 4, can you do that? So that's another thing for you to think about. So we are all done here. I think we are all done. These are just extra problems. We don't have time to go. So thanks very much for joining. Have a good night, everyone. I think everyone is here from US. And I will just sign off. And Sarah will be back next week, by the way. So thank you. If you have questions, please post them on Piazza. I took questions for separate sections. So I'm done. Yeah, but if you have more questions, post on Piazza. Watch 3 Blue 1 Brown video, which is posted. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Kim, you can end the meeting, I guess.
Yeah, I'll end the meeting. All right, thanks
Yeah,
everyone.
Thank you. Bye.